There's a couple of questions that are always asked of people when they go to various events. I'll drive one of my cars around, it'll be in a parking lot, maybe at a car show or a drag race event, and somebody will always come up to me and ask me, did you buy it new? No. The cars are almost all older than me. So no, I didn't buy it new, and even the ones that were built after I was born, I was too young to purchase them new. Another question that comes up, you'll hear people talking when a car is running poorly. That thing needs a new carburetor. It needs a kit. What exactly is that? And is it the carburetor that's actually causing the problems? The carburetor is only part of a system, a complete system, and it's a small portion. If the other parts aren't working correctly, it's not working correctly either. So blaming the carburetor is often wrong. Today we're going to discuss things that you can check and diagnose before putting a new carburetor on. See what other systems could be the problem and save yourself a lot of money. Thanks for joining us today on Mo Power Garage. I'm the professor. The reason the carburetor gets blamed is pretty simple. It's sitting right on top of the engine. Everybody can see it. You can adjust it. You can remove it. But visibility doesn't mean responsibility. A gasoline engine needs 4 things to run correctly: air, fuel, compression, and ignition. The carburetor is only responsible for a portion of that. Another misunderstood area is vacuum advance. We constantly in all the videos talk about ignition timing. Vacuum advance is another problem. Under light cruise conditions, the engine needs additional timing because the mixture burns differently than it does under a heavier load. It's actually much leaner. If the vacuum advance is not working, the engine may run hotter, will certainly have poor fuel economy or poorer fuel economy, and feel like it lacks power. But again, what do you blame? The carburetor. When the real problem is the ignition system. We've spoken several times about getting your initial timing, centrifugal advance, and vacuum advance correct. It seems to come up every time, so it's probably important. Another thing to consider is if you have points, single points or dual points, is your dwell correct? When I got the 68 Roadrunner, the dwell was 18 degrees. That's way off. The breaker plate was welded, springs were missing. When I got the 67 Dart, one of the 2 springs was missing, so they're trying to get the centrifugal advance to come in earlier. That's fine, but you know somebody's been in that distributor as well. The Slant 6 engine, nobody messed with. Now, the 67 Dart also had been converted to electronic ignition. So is your electronic ignition box operating properly? And if it's a Chrysler product, do you have a 4-pin or a 5-pin? The 1975 Slant 6, I converted over to HEI. So there's a lot of things that could have been changed by an owner or somebody working at a garage thinking they were making performance help or fuel economy help for you. So never assume your distributor and ignition timing is correct. Verify that it's correct. Additionally, vacuum leaks are a concern. The carburetor meters air that passes through it, but what happens when air enters the engine elsewhere? Now the carburetor is trying to compensate for air it cannot measure. The vacuum leak can create a lean condition, unstable idle, poor throttle response, and the first instinct is to start adjusting the carburetor, when the correct repair is finding the vacuum leak. How do I find a vacuum leak? Well, I always tell my students, number 1, visual inspection. You'll find about 1/3 of the problems by just looking. Doesn't mean you fixed anything, but you found it, you saw it. Another thing you could use is carburetor cleaner or brake cleaner and spray it around gasket surfaces. And that'll make the idle change when it finds the vacuum leak. But you have to be careful with that. It could discolor the paint on your engine. It can blow around. Another thing you could use, if you have the money or a shop has it, is a smoke machine. They'll need a machine that can generate smoke. They'll put it in various areas in the engine and then look to see where the smoke's coming out. Now they're going to need the correct light to see the smoke. It's going to be some unbelievable gigawatt light. You can't just use a flashlight. You have to have the proper tool to do the job. Finding vacuum leaks can be very trying. You'll end up with a split vacuum hose or a hose that's been left off and you just didn't see it. So you have a couple of options. Visual inspection if you can, carb cleaner, very carefully using it, and then smoke machine will also work. On the other side of this equation is fuel delivery. A carburetor cannot create fuel pressure. It cannot fix a weak fuel pump. It cannot overcome a restricted fuel line. If the fuel supply is inconsistent, the carburetor is simply being blamed for a problem upstream. When I got the 68 Roadrunner, the second owner had installed an electric fuel pump in 1974. There was a lot of problems with the fuel delivery system. There was a regulator all cut up and butchered into the lines. The charging voltage swayed all over the place, which changed the fuel pump's output. It was really a problem. And I was able to get rid of that, put a factory mechanical pump back on and all correct fuel lines. Fuel delivery is important. The carburetor can't cover up for lack of fuel. I've been talking about things that are external to the engine, and we try and cover them up with carburetor adjustments. But what if it's in the engine? Carburetor certainly won't cover that up. So a couple things we might want to do is do a compression test and see if all the cylinders meet the spec, and see if all the cylinders are within percentage points of each other. If they're all high, they're all low, or they're sporadic all over the place, that will give us some information on where we can start. Additionally, you could add the leak down testing to that, and we can determine then which cylinders aren't contributing and which ones are. When I did the Roadrunner's basic health checks, the compression numbers were between 195 and 205. They were outstanding. I don't think there was a variance of more than 8 psi from one cylinder to the next. Leak down test, the worst cylinder was 6% leakage on a 75,000 mile engine, had 72,000 on it then. So do your compression checks and your leakage tests. Verify the engine's in good shape. Also, you'll want to do an engine vacuum test. Make sure you have good engine vacuum. Look at the information being provided to you. If the vacuum is in a certain position, you may have late timing. If the needle's bouncing all over the place, you may have a broken or weak spring or have a guide that's sticking. There's several things it could be, and there's charts online that you can look up to try and help you diagnose what the engine vacuum is telling you. Thus far, we've talked about checking your ignition system, vacuum advance, checking for vacuum leaks, fuel delivery system, and now your carburetors get their fair treatment. Carburetors absolutely can have problems. Floats can be at the wrong levels, idle circuits can become restricted, accelerator pumps can fail, the calibration can be incorrect for the engine. The mistake is not repairing the carburetor. The mistake is assuming the carburetor is guilty before performing a diagnosis. Float level, too high, rich condition, fuel dripping out of the carburetor into the manifold. Too low a float level, hesitation. Accelerator pump, not operating properly, a bog when you take off. If you have the leather accelerator pump gaskets, like I do in the 68 Roadrunner, those are going to break down due to the ethanol in the fuel eventually, so you'll end up with an accelerator pump concern. Do you have dirty idle circuits? Have you gone through your carburetor and cleaned it out? The bleeds? Wrong calibration. Putting a Dominator on a stock 318 isn't going to make the car faster. It's going to make it run worse. When I worked on the 67 Dart, I did a brawler carburetor for a story for Mopar Muscle magazine. And when we did the dyno testing, I knew the carburetor was probably going to be too large for the very stock 273 two-barrel car. A 570 CFM carburetor, I had to go out through and reduce jet sizing and play around with the air bleeds as well. There's screw and air bleeds to get the adjustment where I wanted it, so the car runs well, gets good fuel economy. It gets about 17 miles per gallon with 294 rear gears. And to get it to have some performance, although I don't really care much about the performance with that car. There's 6 circuits in your carburetor. You need to learn all 6. One of them I didn't mention that's a big problem, the choke. The choke seems to get out of adjustment over time. Either you have a mechanical type with a cable, or you have one that's some kind of electric, or it runs off some type of heated port on the manifold. Regardless of what you have, the choke needs to operate properly. You'll see people with bale wire and all kinds of stuff trying to hold it open as a band-aid for part of their repair. Make sure you learn your 6 circuits, make sure your carburetor's clean, make sure the adjustments are correct. That means getting out a book and looking up things, making sure you put the linkages back on in the correct order, kick down linkages in the right place, all the return springs are correct. There's a lot to getting the carburetor squared away that has nothing to do with the carburetor itself. So on my trusty board here, I have the things you're going to do before you touch the carburetor. Do a compression test. I've talked about that. Do a leak down test. Determine if you have cylinder integrity. 1 cylinder's down, 2 cylinders are down. You're going to have an engine that may not run as well as it could, and trying to play with the carburetor isn't going to fix a problem in a cylinder. Do an engine vacuum test. We talked about that. The needle bouncing around, the needle steady. Do your snap tests. You can even determine if you have exhaust restrictions by using a vacuum tester. Check your ignition base timing. Make sure it's correct. Use your vacuum gauge and your timing light to determine where is the best place for your base timing to be. It may not be the sticker on the inner fender well. Verify your mechanical advance is working. Verify your vacuum advance is working and you have it hooked up. Then check your fuel pressure to make sure that's correct, so we don't have a fuel pump problem or a fuel delivery problem. And then finally, adjust your carburetor or carburetors. But these 6 have to be correct before you waste your time down here making adjustments. A carburetor responds to what the engine needs. The best technicians and diagnosticians will go through the engine, the timing, check for vacuum leaks, and overall health of the engine before any carburetor adjustments are made. They'll diagnose and make a repair. They won't just throw parts at it. So the next time someone tells you you need a carburetor, ask them for their proof. How do they know it's the carburetor that's the problem? Diagnosing a classic car correctly the first time is our objective. If you enjoyed this video, I've got other videos as well about overheating, heat soak. Was the horsepower number really what the manufacturer stated? If you own a classic car and want to understand more about it, be sure to subscribe to Mopower Garage. And every week we'll have something new to go over with you. And if you have questions or suggestions, let me know. We can make a video. But for now, Thanks for joining us on Mo Power Garage. I'm the professor. I'll see you next week.